Hey, greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Coming to you today about some firsthand experience in trying to get some paperwork done and pass through the system to take care of certain, quote, bills that are obviously not bills. And before I get started, my attempt here recently is based on a cable bill. And those of you that are familiar with me and know my history here in the last 7 years with the 93 cases and that docket down here at the local courthouse, many of you might think I would be more concerned with getting that taken care of than anything else, rather than starting with a cable bill. But when we're thinking about this stuff, we're thinking about long term. So the importance here is that you really dig into what you're doing and comprehend it first. And if you don't, and you think you're going to go ahead and do your cable bill, your utility bill, your phone bill, your water bill, your rent, and all this other stuff, your car bill, all these things all at once, and they all flop, and then you end up in a financial disaster because you don't understand the financial system and how it works. And the one fact that many people out there don't even know what's going on, and they're just doing their job. And so it's important to realize that when you start practicing this stuff, start with the little things so you get a better, clearer comprehension on the lower levels. And you get practice in there, not only in educating yourself and doing your own research, but passing that on to other people. And the situation that I've got at hand now with my companion and the cable bill is that I took an offer of one of their instruments. It's called Offer and Acceptance in Formation of Contract. And so when I took the PS form, PS form 6387, which is the Rural Money Order Transaction Application, and I put on here an order, and it's a money order. If you know the UCC, it's a draft if it's an order, and it's a promise if it's a note. So on that instrument that was offered, it's an order and not a promise. Okay. Order being of the military venue, and the PS form coming from the post office, and the post office being an inland marine installation. It is a military fiat document. And so when I tried to present the bill on that PS form 6387 as a conversion of $1.10 in coin to the credit, the form itself is an offer to the public. Now that offer is an offer to purchase the money order. Nothing else, just a purchase of the money order. So the purchase of the money order for that particular bill for $98.91 or 81 cents or whatever it was is an offer of an instrument for accord and satisfaction in formation of a contract. If I want to form it as a contract, however, I can operate outside of that by operating as a third party benefactor to the beneficiary record of those contracts. So as the third party, I drew on their instrument, which was offered for sale for the $1.10, and that is a purchase of the instrument that shows the conversion on the document, on the instrument. And notice, if you go back to my other videos, you'll see the one where I posted on the complaint that I have in regards to the instrumentality of that offer and its acceptance and everything, and the details therein on the part that says it says pay carrier total amount of money order and fee. And clearly on the instrument, the fee is the $1.10. Okay. The fee is the $1.10, and it's for a conversion of anywhere from 0.01 up to $500. See there, 0.01 to $500. Then it says pay carrier total amount of money order fee. Now in this bottom corner, I put the prepaid number, and that's the one that's directly tied to the IMF. Now the IMF, as an institution, a financial institution, just like any bank, can't loan money. Okay. Money is the actual documents, the paperwork. Okay. And paperwork is the escrow. When we think of the term escrow, escrow is the third party holding. So when I filled out the SS5 application and mom filled out the enumeration at birth, those are two escrow holdings, and they're both held in the name of Keith Orland Little. Okay. One is held with mom and the state, and it's held by a third party, the foreign property custodian. The SS5 that I filled out, the same thing. It's an agreement with the state, but the paperwork is held by a third party, foreign property custodian. The foreign property custodian of the United States. Okay. That's the escrow. There's already an escrow holding. So when I did this form and I went down to the post office, the lady at the post office, when I went up to the window, didn't know what it was. So she called the supervisor. Now, she didn't call Darren Greer, who is the postmaster, but she called the supervisor or manager or whatever. And when I spoke to her, she didn't know anything about it. And so when I tried showing her the codes and everything, she still didn't know anything about it. She didn't understand it. She's never read those codes. And when I asked her if she would educate herself on, oh, no, that's not going to happen. That's a major problem. You have somebody in an international venue of the post office under the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, and in the very preamble, not the articles, but the preamble, that document that is held in escrow, and I have an agreement with the post office now, not just the state, but the post office, as an online enterprise payment systems account and constructed as a trust. So now we have an issue where the lady at the local post office is violating the preamble of the Universal Postal Union's Constitution, wherein it clearly states that the post office is to collaborate and communicate with the people of the world. Now, if you decide you no longer want to communicate, then you're in violation as while you're still getting paid under that document. I don't care what kind of contract you have. I don't care what kind of capacity you think you're in, but you're working on an inland marine installation in a military capacity. You will do as you're told, or you will not work there anymore. And I can direct that, because if they dishonored this one, and like I said, I called the post office today and finally got in contact with them, and it's been resolved at that level. So next time I go down there with that bill, that statement of services with the conversion of that document, and they don't accept it, now I have a valid international claim through my trust, and I will take them for every penny I can. So when I got on the phone today, and I want to explain that, I get very frustrated with people that don't understand English, contract law, and trust law, when those are the three basic elements they're supposed to know in those capacities of running this business of government. And if they don't know, then they're incompetent, and that is a major part of the problem. But that's because they're bringing up people like myself and every other American in this public education system to attain maybe a 7th grade reading comprehension. And again, this is where I get disturbed that people walk out of these high schools nowadays and never pick up another book. They don't try to enhance their education anymore. And there's a very large number of people that do that. More than go to college, that's for damn sure. Look at the statistics. A very low percentage of people go to college. And even in those colleges, they end up with Dunning-Kruger effect. They think they're smarter than everybody else, and they're not. So when I run across people that say, oh, no, well, that's not going to happen when it comes to education, I feel that very distasteful in my mouth. Very. So when I got on the phone, it inherently comes across that I'm upset. And people take that personally. So when I got on the phone with this, the gal at the post office, and she was very kind and polite, I have to give her, they did a little survey and I gave her 6s all the way across, 6s and 10s, whatever the values were, 1 to 6 and 1 to 10. And I gave her 10s and 6s because she did an excellent job dealing with somebody like me. I know how hard I am to put up with. Because like I said, I don't put up with any flaws and untruths. So in our conversation, things that she didn't comprehend, I had to direct her, and she was polite about it and did her research and educated herself. And there was even one time where I gave her that IMF number. She had to say, hold on, I got to go talk to somebody. So there's an indication that somebody does know something about it, or if they don't, they know somebody that does. So she went to speak to him, came back, and then we just went on with our business. She'd never mentioned that number again. So now that it's been resolved through a phone conversation, complaint has been filed and directive was given by Linnell with her employee number. I took the notes and everything. And now I've got a directive from them where I gave a directive, they gave a coinciding directive. Now we have 2 directives of the same going back down to this post office next time I get that statement of services and presenting it again. And this time, if she dishonors it, she loses her job. I'll guarantee that. So it's important when you're dealing with this stuff to know your own personality and how to deal with other people. And again, it goes down to the basics of English, contract law, and trust law. Now, back to the escrow thing. Anytime you're doing this stuff, and like I said at the beginning of the video, if you think you're going to go out there and start doing this for phone bill, utility bill, water bill, cable bill, rent, car payment, house payment, whatever it is, and do it all at once, and then you find yourself in a bind because you didn't know what you were doing and everybody is coming against you, that's going to be a problem. Whereas if you deal with it one issue at a time, starting with the small one, you get that one cleared, and now you can use that as evidence for the next one. So the next one we do is going to be the phone bill. Then the next one we're going to do is the utility bill, the water bill, rent, that purchase order for a new car. And you just gradually build it up. And that's how you build your practice, so that you're practicing like a bike. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Whereas if you try to ride 10 bikes at once, it's going to be a little difficult, right? So you only ride one bike and you practice. So you start out on a 3-wheel bike, you practice on a 3-wheel bike. Then you get good enough at that you can go to a 2-wheel bike. Then when you get good enough at that, then you can go to a 1-wheel bike. See how it works? And yes, it might be a little harsh, but I'm tired of the cupcake bullshit. Thinking that if you hurt somebody else's feelings, which is intangible and not real, then you're deceiving yourself. And to live in that lie and let everybody else deceive you along the way into believing other shit is just stupidity. So again, start doing your research. Don't believe me. Don't believe your neighbor. Don't believe the government. And it's crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you can know this stuff and be the educator. You know, like I said, these people that go to college, they end up with a doctorate. They go to college to get a doctorate. A doctor, you would think, is a medical term, and it's not. Doctor literally means teacher. That's why no matter what kind of study you're in, if you go to college and you want to have a degree in it, you get a doctorate degree. It's called a doctorate degree because now you know enough that you can go forth and teach what you've learned. Now, I pose that you can be a doctor without a college education. And that's all I present, that you can present what you've learned through your firsthand experiences without having to have somebody else tell you something somebody else said eons ago or yesterday, and that you're supposed to believe that. You should be able to use your own firsthand observances and the power of this thing here in learning through life yourself, so then you can re-teach what you've learned. You don't have to teach what somebody else learned and taught you, but learning from your own firsthand experiences is the greatest knowledge. So think about this stuff, and remember, it's just today's legal tender is negotiable instruments, and everything they offer is a negotiation. So you have to learn how to negotiate. Keep the feelings out of it. Keep to the English language. Keep to the contract. Keep to the trust, and you should be just fine. Because again, I'm not a quote doctor, but I think I helped educate somebody today. And in turn, I got a slight bit of education myself from her. So it is a quid pro quo. It is a back and forth. It is an equal consideration, equal benefit. And so we have to do that the best we can, as much as we can, in order to get out of the indoctrination. Period. So when I do this again next time, I'll come back with another video to give you the results. And like I said, it's a matter of learning their language. Isaiah 54, verse 17, no tongue shall prosper against you, and any tongue that rises up against you in judgment you shall condemn. So when they rise up in their stupid judgments and say that they're not going to accept that I have to get a postal money order as opposed to a rural money order, then they're the ones that are placing a judgment of their own and making legal determinations. And I clearly explained that to her on the phone. I said, the lady down here was insisting on making a legal determination, tell me I had to fill out a postal money order when it was clearly offered a rural money order. She was trying to say I can't use that form, that I had to use a different form. So that is a dishonor of instrument. The lady on the phone recognized that, filed the complaint, took down my notes for the various different laws, stating that I could use a number in lieu of the name and address, that I am the third-party benefactor to the beneficiary record. I gave her the enterprise payment system trust account numbers so that it's filed under the trust and not under the Keith Orland Little administrative record. And so that's an important step along the way as well. Establishing that trust account so that they don't keep confusing it with the administrative account. Now you can deal with the judicial office with a judicial account through that's expressed as a trust account. And now you're in the trust law and not administrative contract law as a trustee. And you can place yourself and keep yourself in that third-party position as benefactor to the beneficiary and not a trustee under contract or a grantee of a trust, a grantee of a public trust, or a trustee of a public contract. So think about this and remember, Communication skills are the most important. Like I said, the last case I was in, I was fingering them, I was cussing and swearing, I was calling them all kinds of names. I was ready to file a claim against them and take them to court and sue them in their own courts. I've realized through my research those aren't the courts that I belong in, and that if I really want what they call reappropriation, reversion, payback, whatever, that I've got to do that myself, and I've got to do it through the right process. And it's by the use of the monetary instruments so that you can extend credit. We don't need to keep giving people these Federal Reserve notes. We don't need to keep doing that. That you're not supposed to be using those. And that should be a clue to look into the system further and find out what it is you're supposed to be using. And so when we see that there's an offer and acceptance information of contract, and that everything in the public is actually formed as a contract when it comes to the treaties and constitutions and statutes and code, those are all offers, information of contract, and you can use them. It's a usufruct system. You can use them to give directives rather than being the holder. So you got to remember that stuff. And I want to thank everybody for joining me today. It's just a short video. I'm not having an open panel. I just wanted to explain the communication process. It's just like riding a bike. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And if you think you're good enough at it, maybe you might want to think about that again, because that's the major problem in everybody's life, is we're just not communicating appropriately. And that is the correct term to use, appropriately. Because if you're going to appropriate any funds from your spiritual credence, then that's where it has to come from. So it's not a matter of delegating or designating credits. The credits are already there if you know who you are. Merit system, like I said, it's a military fiat, and they go by merits and demerits. And when you look at that term merit, it means spiritual credit. So come from the spirit, put the credit into the record by correcting the words so that they're used appropriately. So again, God bless. You guys know I love you, but I don't give a fuck whether you love me back. That's for you to determine how you want to love me, how much you want to love me, and if you even love me. But again, it's not me that I want you to love. It's the message. Listen to the message and not the messenger. Again, I don't give a fuck whether you like my language. I don't give a fuck whether you don't care for my anger or my passion or my presentment. Listen to the message. And that is to know yourself. And if you think you know yourself well enough and things are still going errantly wrong in your life and you're confused as to how to fix them, then maybe it's true that you don't know yourself. Because again, I'm the only one that put this shit in the record. They couldn't put it in the record without me. So that means it's my fault. Therefore, all you got to do is realize it's your own fault. Stand up to that one thing. Hold yourself accountable. Hold yourself to the duties and obligations that you hold to each other if you really do love each other. God bless everybody. We'll see you later.